when, you know, we were talking about it, my wife Chai decided to, you know, meet up with him. She didn't know him nearly as well as I did, and I think they went out to dinner and hung out, and, you know, she was talking to him about the film, and he said, "Oh, great, you know, if you guys are going to make a film, I'm thinking about free soloing El Cap." And my wife isn't a climber, and she's born and raised on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and she was like, "Oh, great, that's amazing, that's like going to anchor the film, like, we've got this perfect narrative arc." And then, of course, she told me, and I was like, he said, "What?" Like, you know, I mean, we as his friends, we knew he was everything was kind of leading up to free soloing El Cap, but we literally didn't even talk about it amongst ourselves, because we didn't even want to like put the idea into the ether, because we were just like, don't even think about it, like, we don't, you know. So we actually I told Chai, like, we're not making the film, and we actually had the film. It was greenlit for being financed, and I was like, we're not making it. And so we took 6 months off from making the film, because there were just a lot of, I knew what it would mean, and I didn't want to make that film. But I talked to a few of my friends and mentors. John Krakauer, the author, is a good friend of mine. He's someone I often go to with kind of these kind of questions, and he was like any good mentor, he didn't tell me what to do, he just asked me a bunch of questions. He was like, "Well, is he going to do it anyways?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, do you think you might be, you know, positioned the best to make, you know, tell that story, because it would be kind of an incredible story?" And I was like, "Yeah, probably." And then he said, "Do you trust him?" And that's the one where I really thought about it. And I'd spent 10 years filming with him, free soloing. I've seen him make all kinds of decisions in all kinds of very challenging situations. And I did trust him. And I know that Alex trusted me. And I knew that Alex's intentions were pure. Like, he wasn't doing it to like make money or become famous. He didn't care if we made a film about him. You know, he was there to go do it on his own. And so the next day I basically said, "Okay, we're gonna do this." I talked to Alex. He was like, "Yeah, that's fine. We'll figure it out," you know, and that's what we did. You know, we filmed interviews and of the crew and everything, but not necessarily with the intention of putting it in the movie, but for behind the scenes.
Like DVD extras or something?
Yeah, just for posterity. And, you know, pretty quickly as we started to cut the film, we realized there was no way we could exclude that part of the story, because, you know, it was such a central part of the film process, like the filmmaking process, and it was like there were so many existential questions that we had to deal with, and the whole film was also done in secrecy, so there was nobody to kind of, you know, give the audience a sense of the people who, you know, anybody watching it. So the only people watching it was us and our crew.
Right.
And so that's, you know, those scenes of Mikey not being able to watch, you know, those moments are kind of gold, because it's the one, you know, the audience can be like, can relate, you know.
Absolutely.
Otherwise it's hard to understand in some ways. Yeah, no, there was a central kind of moral dilemma for us being there, which was that, you know, if, you know, by being there we were going to make it more likely for him to fall, and, you know, that was a very heavy dilemma to carry, and we carried it pretty, you know, we carried it for 2 years, not just myself, but particularly the crew. And just so you understand, like, the crew is made up of, you know, elite professional climbers, not like world-class climbers. I mean, just like the baseline to even be considered for the cinematography high-angle team, you know, you had to be able to climb El Cap in a day casually, like not even think about it, you know. And of course they had to be kind of world-class cinematographers. So there's only a handful of people on the planet that had to choose from, and it's kind of a small, you know, kind of you know, the world, and that world gets smaller and smaller. Just like anything at the upper echelon, there's only a few people, and probably like less than 10 people, and even out of those people, I had to pick 3 that I knew the best, and I also knew that had the right personalities. I knew that they, you know, functioned very well when the stakes were high, could keep calm, could stay neutral throughout the shoot, because one thing to understand is that we had to really stay neutral around Alex for those 2 years, even though we were all very good friends of his. You know, like Mikey mentions, you know, he's climbed with Alex, you know, in Patagonia and in Yosemite, and I've climbed with Alex for over 10 years all over the world. Like, we're very close friends, yet, you know, we could never put pressure on him, nor did we want to, to say, oh, you should go for it. Or on the flip side of that, we could never say, don't do it. You know, I mean, this is really his decision, and we had to trust that he was only going to do it if he felt like he was 100%. It really was kind of conflicting for all of us. You know, as a friend, we're very disappointed for him because, you know, we knew that this was going to be really hard for him. And really, I felt so bad for our Verite DP on the ground, Claire, because, you know, clearly Alex did not want to be filmed right then, but we knew we had to film, and so nobody wanted to film that scene when he comes down and he's talking to Peter Croft and he's totally dejected. But that's documentary filmmaking, and Claire had to be there for that. And then there's also a moment when I'm on top and I say, I wonder what it was. Because for me, the greatest tragedy would be that it was because of us, the production, that he turned around. And, you know, it turns out, as you know, he's said later and told me later, it really was just that he wasn't totally ready. He wanted to blame a lot of different people, but like it was just that he wasn't ready. I met Chai as I was making Meru, and so that was our first kind of film together, and we learned a lot about each other working on that film. And you know, there are certain aspects that she brings that, you know, I trust implicitly, and there's the things that I bring that, you know, she trusts me on completely. I often think it would be really hard for one person to be able to kind of, you know, bring the 2 very different things that Chai and I bring as like one person. But, you know, she has been making films for almost 20 years, and she comes from like a really serious nonfiction, you know, feature documentary world. I mean, she's incredibly smart, and she's an incredible filmmaker. She made her first film her senior year in college, and finished it after college, but, you know, submitted to Tribeca Film Festival when she was, you know, 22, and it didn't just get in, it won Best Documentary at Tribeca. So she, you know, she's had a very successful career as a filmmaker, and has always chosen like really challenging social or political films, and that are, you know, just really difficult to make narratively. But then, you know, we kind of took our 2 talents and put them together, and I think that is really helpful, because she has actual objectivity to what we're doing. You know, when I'm making a film like this or Meru, it's really hard to be objective because I'm kind of inside of it, and I know that world really well, but it's, you know, it's hard to be objective about what we do.